doing a Aria of Sorrow Glitchless speedrun by JupiterClimb. I'm going to let Jupiter give himself a little introduction, then we'll get right underway. Jupiter, take it away, buddy.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. My name is JupiterClimb, and yeah, today we're going to be doing a speedrun of Soma Glitchless, Aria of Sorrow. Definitely a technical run, lots to talk about, but I think we'll get into that as we get through the run here. So I'll go ahead and get started. Alright, timer 3, 2, 1, go. So we're going to get started with a frame perfect trick right out of the gate. This will probably take a few tries to get. If I miss it, I'll just reset. So this category is defined by RNG manipulations, and early on we really want this Basilard weapon drop from the zombies to make some of those work. There we go. Second try's not bad. This game has recently been rerouted. A lot of new manipulations that if you've seen runs of this game in the past might be new to you. Some of them are quite tough, but thankfully we're going to be taking safety saves along the way. So we're never going to lose too much time, even if some of these manips are second or third try. The core form of movement in this game is backdash canceling. You can also chain that with an attack to go a little bit faster. So here's our first manip, the Creaking Skull manip. Have to do a full backdash there. And then a specific setup in this room. Okay, nice. Now, in the old route for this game, Creaking Skull was a very important soul. In the new route, however, we're only really going to use it to pick up an even better soul coming up shortly. Normally you need flying armor to get up here. However, if you backdash jump, you can get a little bit of extra height if you're careful, which allows us to clip onto some of these ledges. So while we're making our way through these hallways, let's talk a little bit about RNG manipulation in general. So a number of different things affect how the RNG works in this game, but the most important thing, excuse me, is that when you load a suspend, it'll automatically bring the RNG table to the same point every time. So whenever I set up a manip, I'm going to suspend. And that'll mean that so long as I play in the exact same way every time, I can get the same result. Certain enemies are a little bit tougher to manip than others. The details get a little complicated. For example, this next manip coming up is technically sub-pixel perfect, meaning there's a chance that even if the manip is perfect, the setup is perfect, it still might not work. So in a run, if that would happen, you would reset. Here, we're just going to take a safety save. So the second boss here is Manticore. This is the best soul in the game. Often a little bit overlooked by casual players, but nice. Nice first try. Okay. But in a speedrun setting, it's incredibly useful for 3 reasons. First, let me just say that this soul, when used, we'll see it in a second here, transforms Soma into a rushing demon. And that's good for three things. Number one, increases movement speed slightly. Number two, it does great damage against bosses. We'll get a lot of mileage out of that. And then number three, it's nice for RNG manipulation, actually. It burns a lot of RNG values very quickly, which makes certain manip setups that otherwise wouldn't be possible in real time possible. So here we go. This is what the soul looks like. If there is a downside, you can see that burned through our MP bar pretty quickly. So it's a super effective soul, but it has to be used sparingly. This next boss coming up is Great Armor. Used to be one of the least fun fights in the run when we would use Creaking Skull as our main offense. Now we just use Manticore, and you'll see the kind of damage potential this soul has. Little unlucky on the pattern, that's fine. 6 hits will do it. Nice. And this is going to give us the Malthus or Double Jump ability soul. Alright, so something we have to talk about is what it means for something to be glitchless. It's the classic debate. I bring this up now because we're about to skip 2 whole areas of the game. So, platforms in this game are designed in a way where the corners of the platforms are rounded. Meaning that if Soma barely can't make it onto a platform, but instead jumps on the very side of the platform, he can get a little bit of extra height he's not normally supposed to get. And that allows us to skip both the dance hall area, as well as the inner quarters area. We can go straight to the floating garden. But that's definitely more of an exploit than a glitch. In fact, I know for a fact that certain people, on their first playthrough, end up finding this by accident. So, you know, it fits. It's not against the spirit of the category, I don't think. But yeah, from the gardens, we're going to go to the clock tower and then fight Death. You'll notice that I've actually been picking up a lot of these candles and the heart drops through the study, and now through the castle corridor as well. One of the really interesting things about some of the new Aria of Sorrow routes is how, because Manticore is such a central soul, MP management matters a lot. Oh, that was a nice skip. It's a tough trick to get. But yeah, because MP is so important, we're gonna blame that on early morning fatigue. But yeah, 1 platform cycle missed. So MP routing ends up being an important consideration. Here, for example, I'm going to pick up a couple more of these candles to get it to full MP for another Manticore use. Here we're going to pick up an item in a secret room. This is the Mistletoe Sword. I'm actually heal to be safe here. Probably not necessary, but just in case. So we definitely want a better weapon for death. Phase 1, as we'll see, is going to be all Manticore. But then Phase 2, we need to use a weapon, since we'll be out of MP. And this is a very conveniently placed option. We'll refresh our HP real quick in here, then go on to the fight. So I'm going to go for a setup here to pin death to the corner. Okay, good. So you can see that did huge damage. 9 hits of over 100 each. And there's phase 1. Now I'm going to delay a little bit and go over to the right. That's going to pull death this way. If he starts too far to the left, it's easy for him to get stuck in the wall, which is slow. So that's a precaution against that. Nice. Okay, that's about as good of a death fight as you could ask for. All that so we can pick up the School of Soul here. This lets us move underwater, which basically opens up the second half of the castle. Now, unfortunately, I would say the second half of this category is a lot tougher than the first. Some really interesting double manipulations coming up here. Alright, here we go down to the underground reservoir. One of my favorite strats. It's very easy, you just hold R, but I've always liked it. We're going to use Skula plus Manticore to rush through these fish enemies here. Nice. You can also walk on those boats to save a few frames. You can also damage boost on these needles to instantly reach max fall speed, which is a nice little time save. Alright, so this is maybe the scariest manip to fail on the run, because this safety save we're going to take here, it's like a minute away from the manip. I do have some backups though, so we'll get a couple of tries at it before we have to reset. But yeah, you'll notice that my armor is still that same armor I had equipped from much earlier in the run. So defensively, we're pretty underpowered at this point. It is possible to get over that Trident without taking damage, though it is sub-pixel dependent. Alright, so the whole reason we come down here is because since this is glitchless, we need certain souls to complete the game with. One of those is Flame Demon, which I'm going to get right now. Okay, very good. So you see, that was our first double manipulation. I picked up both the Levitain drop and the Flame Demon soul. Flame Demon's required, and Levitain is going to be very useful for the remainder of the run. In fact, it's one of our two main weapons for the rest of the game. Checking my experience here, I gotta get a certain amount. So we're just gonna kill 2 and no more of these gargoyles. And once again, we are going to do a double manipulation. Here we want to pick up something called the Lubricant Soul and the Muramasa Sword. We'll save, of course. So let me focus on getting this double manipia, and then I'll explain what these two souls do. Nice. Okay, the manips have gone great so far. But yeah, so the Muramasa is another really good sword. It can double hit, which makes it better than the Levitain versus certain bosses like Balor here. And the Lubricant Soul is very interesting. It greatly increases Soma's strength as he loses HP. So the lower his HP, the greater the damage. In a record attempt speedrun, you would actually be at close to 1 HP here. But for speedrun, I'm just going to take a couple of intentional hits, and we'll stay at this HP level for the fight. Okay, good fight. Now we've got the Giant Bat Soul, which gives us access to flight. That's going to take us to the final area. But from a speedrunning perspective, Giant Bat is actually one of the most interesting movement souls. You can do a rapid transform, untransform, like you saw there. It's a little bit faster than regular movement, doesn't cost much MP, and it lets you get around all kinds of enemies, so it's quite useful. Nice Medusa head pattern. So thankfully, we only have one more manip in the run. It's for our final required soul, the Succubus soul. And we'll get that shortly. I want to get hit once here. Nice, okay. And that's to buff the lubricant damage a little bit for this manip. Very good, okay. Now I just have to survive. Gotta survive and get to the save. Alright. So again, normally, I would just go into the Graham fight here at close to 1 HP and hope for the best, but since this is a marathon, we'll save. And I'm going to take a little bit of damage. Definitely a pretty high chance of death, but it's a quick reset if we need to. Now, despite the fact that we're done with all the soul drop and item drop manipulations, we're actually going to manipulate the start of this fight. Like with death, we want to pin Graham against the wall for Manticore. So we're going to try that right now. Okay, looks good. Have to make sure to equip the relevant souls before phase 2. Okay. Okay, and that's Graham. As you can see, Manticore is still pretty insane in terms of damage, even late into the run. This gives us Black Panther, which is the fastest form of movement, by far. And Dracula's Tunic, which is a much-needed armor upgrade. First, we're going to head over here. And this is going to give us access to flight again, but it's slightly faster. Hippogriff, you can just press L and get a lot of good vertical distance. So it's technically optional, but a lot faster for a speedrun to pick that up. Alright, next up, of course, we can't finish an Aria speedrun without going to say hi to Hammer. Getting that sword there just to sell it. It sells for a lot. We'll heal up. We'll get all the potions and high mind ups we can. I did buy those, right? Hang on. Yeah, okay, we're good. And it's slightly faster from here to actually warp back to the clock tower and go to the gardens from here instead of from the castle corridor. Julius is a notorious fight, and in a record speed run, it's probably the scariest fight of the run, maybe next to the final boss. You go into the fight with 1 HP, more or less, so it's one hit and you're dead. here, I'm actually going to take a little bit of intentional damage. But we'll give ourselves a little bit of a buffer too, so we're not dead in one hit. I'm trying to get a specific setup here, which is 4 hits to stagger, and then immediately buffer Manticore, and I can get 2 or 3 hits that way every time. Okay, and that was a quick phase 1. Great fight. Really good. We'll pop into the save, just to be safe here. This is the Chaotic Realm. It's almost like a remix of all of the areas we've been to earlier in the game. Well, I mean, except the ones that we skipped. Remember, not a glitch, just an exploit. Definitely some interesting movement here. Okay, and here's the door to the final boss. Chaos is considered pretty easy, I think, by most people for a casual playthrough, but in a speedrun, this is probably the toughest boss in Castlevania. It can always go wrong, it can always ruin your run. Alright, so to equip, I'm going to put on Muramasa, Manticore, and Lubricant. And this is really where Muramasa gets a chance to shine. You can see those double and triple hits. Once again, a little bit of intentional damage. Okay, that's perfect. And surprise, surprise, for the final phase of the final fight, our main weapon is going to be Manticore. It's still really good. Wow. That was a great run. Almost a sub 30 in a marathon. Was not expecting a time that good. But yeah, GG. I guess I'll give some closing remarks then real quick. Number one, if you do enjoy this kind of Metroidvania content, I do stream every day, so feel free to stop by and say hi. Number two, thanks very much to everyone for their generosity so far. Please do keep the donations coming in. It's for a great cause. But yeah, hopefully this was a good run to watch, and that'll be it from me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jupiter. That was a really good run. Your commentary there was actually really helpful. I didn't know a whole lot about how RNG manipulation works. So that was very fun to get a chance to learn about.
Yeah, hopefully I gave a decent summary of how it all works.
Yeah, no, it was great. All right, perfect. So next up, we're gonna have Dan, the VP. We're gonna have a brief intermission while we get things set up and everything going. Well, we're gonna come back to Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. So stay tuned, everybody, and we'll be back in just a moment.